Hey everyone, welcome back to the Push Pace podcast. This week I've got a very cool episode that I think you guys are going to like. It is going to be an audio clip from a recent rowing clinic that I went up to teach, going into details about rowing form, rowing technique, and I think there's going to be some really cool insights here of things that you might not have thought about with your own rowing form. And although you're not going to be able to see and practice the rowing in the time that you're hearing it, I think there's still going to be some really good takeaways here, and you can get a good sense of sort of how I generally try to teach rowing to help everyone get the most out of their rowing workout. So I really hope you guys enjoy the talk today. Let me know what you think. As always, rate the podcast if you haven't already, and thanks so much for listening. Enjoy. All right, guys, well, welcome. So good to have you all here today. Happy to be out here in Stockton. This is actually only the third studio that I've ever gotten a chance to be a coach in. I've been a coach over at Orange Theory Natomas for, it'll be 3 years in December. So I've been with Orange Theory for a while. I've coached over 2,500 classes at this point. I graduated from UC Davis back in 2016. I studied exercise biology over there. And while I was in college, I spent all 4 years on the rowing team there. So I got a full college experience on the rowing team. Before that, I had never heard about rowing before. But when I finished, I'd been working as a personal trainer for a couple years while I was in school, heard about Orange Theory, and after I became a coach for Orange Theory, learned that there was rowing as a part of it. I also had a big passion for videography and creating videos and just online stuff, and so I created a YouTube channel talking about the rowing machine and rowing machine technique and such like that. And then over this last year, I've been making a lot of individual content for Orange Theory, just creating workout tips and things like that, because I like to, my heart bleeds orange, and I just like to spread as much information as possible to everyone that's just trying to learn a little bit more. Because in this fitness journey, there's so much to learn. On the rowing machine, there's almost too much to learn, and a lot of it can seem really overwhelming and such. And so today, hopefully, we're gonna break down a lot of the main sort of concepts of rowing. Got this little checklist right here, but we're gonna kind of hit all of these and hopefully walk away with just a better understanding of how our bodies work on the rowing machine and how we can use this to get more out of each hour of the workout that we do. So good to have you guys here. Hope we're ready for some fun. So before we pick up the handle, first part we're gonna cover here is foot setup and body positioning. So question for you, you don't have to actually answer this, but when you sit down to row, do you ever manipulate the foot plates? Those, the portions that go up and down. Okay, great, awesome. Now, as far as what we coach for at Orange Theory, typically we say aim for the foot strap to go across the widest part of your shoe. Now, for a lot of us that works okay. However, what I tend to coach for and what tends to end up working better for individuals, because of the WaterRower's design, this seat sits the foot plates and the seat sit very level with each other. And to get more of an optimal rowing stroke, we are much better off trying to have, hi, how's it going?
Hi, I'm Teresa. I'm just really late. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Austin, nice to meet you. Good to have you here. So to get a more optimal rowing stroke, we want to try to keep our feet as low to the seat as we can comfortably. So if we can, actually aiming to get the strap of the foot plates to go across around the ball of your foot, that gives us into a more ergonomically more efficient rowing position. Now, when I coach this for big groups of people, typically for most, that ends up being about 6 pairs of holes showing on top. So you see the pairs of holes showing on the orange portion. Check how many are showing on yours right now. I'd like you all to try for 6 pairs of holes showing real quick, and then go ahead and clip your feet in. And as you do that, I want you to see if the strap is going around the ball of your foot. Now, some of you I think are a little bit taller, some of you a little shorter. Some of you might need 7 pairs, some of you might need 5 pairs. I want you to feel, and I want you to essentially try to get that strap as high on your shoe as you can, which is comfortable, which tends to be around the ball of your feet. For me, I'm 6'8", and I've got big old clown feet. So I go down to 2 pairs of holes showing, but if you look at where this strap sits in for me right here, again, the widest part of my shoe is down here, but I can row comfortably with the strap about an inch higher than that. And that sets my feet lower, and that's going to allow me to get a little bit more range of motion with the rowing stroke. Because what we're going to learn soon is that rowing is all about leverage. In fact, did you guys know that the shortest woman in the USA undefeated women's 8-person rowing boat, who's been undefeated since the 2004 Olympics, the shortest woman on that boat is like 6'1"? Rowing is just a really tall person sport. And it doesn't mean that if we're short that we can't row. It just means that taller bodies are more ergonomically efficient because rowing is what's called power endurance. Hey, Teresa, I'm going to actually move your rower over real quick. So go ahead and just unclip your feet real quick. I'm just going to slide this over. And I'm going to slide my own rower over as well. That way we all get a good... Oh, you're very welcome. So that way we can all get cozy. Our foot plates are adjusted. We learned that if we're short, there's no hope. Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. No. I want to just say that there's a handful now of women in Orange Theory that are about 5'1" that very easily pull 350 watts for max watts. And I know a lot of big, tall guys that can't do that. And it really comes down to being able to maximize your form for your height. Anyone can row tall, depending on whatever height you are. So we'll learn that. So now we've got our foot plates adjusted here. The next part of this says body positioning. So this is before you even pick up the handle. Because with rowing, very common injury is hurting your lower back. A lot of people hurt their back when they row. That's why a lot of people criticize the rowing machine, is because people are hurting their backs. And that typically is not because of their form. It's typically because of how they're sitting on the rowing machine. Because the way we sit will determine our success with this rowing stroke. Just like how you set up for an exercise on the weight floor is going to determine how well you do that. Do you just pick up a dumbbell and then just squat without setting up your feet properly, right? We always, whatever we're doing, we're making sure we're getting ourselves into whatever position. Same exact concept with the rower. So here's what we do. Once our feet are in, I want you guys to hold your rowing straps. So I want you to physically grip them like this. Use them as a little bit of a leverage point. And what you're going to do is a few different terms here. One of these might click for you. You're going to try to sit forward on your hips, sit on your junk, or sit on the back part of your thigh here. Notice what I'm doing is I'm scooching my butt behind me more. I'm trying to sit forward like this. And notice what this does. I want you guys to just see from the profile here. What this allows me to do is this allows me to lean forward at the front of the rowing stroke with a flat back. You see how my lower back here is nice and flat in line with the rest of my body? It allows me to lean and to swing back safely. Because if we don't do that and we're just sitting with our butt underneath us like this, notice now when I come to the front, my back is rounded. It's like C-curved now. And this is how we get those back injuries. And it doesn't allow us to get any sort of lean forward or any sort of swing back. And so that's why before you even pick up the handle, you get your feet in, you hold onto these, and you scooch your butt back. You sit forward or on the sort of the back portion of your thighs here, as far forward on the hamstrings as you can. Now as you do that, exactly, yeah. So you're trying essentially to get your torso to be able to collapse onto your thighs. Yes, without that feeling of stretch in your lower back. When you sit like this, can you sit with flat legs, straight legs, and lean forward a little bit? Do you guys feel that hamstring stretch back there? Some of us, that might be a pretty tight spot. Hamstring flexibility, super important for getting the most out of your rows. And so what I recommend doing before class, because you know how you chill out in the lobby a few minutes before class, right? Well, you don't want to kick anyone in the face here, but a good warm-up to do before you come in, which warms up you great for the treadmill, the rower, the weight floor, everything. Hips and hamstrings is called a leg swing. You kick forward and you swing back. Kick and swing. Kick and swing. It's stretching out the backs of your thighs here and stretching out your hips as you kick back behind you. That's going to help you get that lean forward and the swing back for a rowing stroke and help you sit like that more comfortably. Okay, so if you don't want to kick anyone in the lobby, I see lots of space on that concrete right outside the door. You won't be late for class. But it's a much better use of your time than just sitting out in the lobby, just playing on your phone or whatever. So something to think about. Stretching out your hamstrings. And then after classes too, or at home, while you're chilling watching your favorite Netflix show, sitting on the ground and doing this with a flat back, of course. The way to do this with a flat back, like if you can't reach your toes, a lot of people do this. What you can do instead is you can actually bend in your knees, grab your shoes or your feet or your socks or whatever, and walk your heels out like this. Now my back's flat, I'm still feeling it, and over time you'll be able to work those legs flat while keeping your back flat. So hamstring flexibility, very important, not just for treadmill stuff, but especially for the rower. All right, hopefully we've learned something so far. We haven't even picked up the handle. Crazy. Wow. So now we get to start picking up the handle. How exciting. So we have our feet in. We've scooched ourselves. When we grab the handle, we're always grabbing at the widest part. Always making sure pinkies are at sort of the last inch or so of that handle and our thumbs are underneath. We don't want our thumbs on top because that grip can allow the handle to slip out of your hands when you're sweaty and working hard. So always hook those thumbs underneath. When it comes to the rowing sequence, you've heard your coaches say it because we're taught to say it. Legs, core, arms. Legs, core, arms. And on the way out, arms, core, legs. But what I want, instead of just thinking of those words, I want you to think about what your body is doing while you're doing that motion. And the key concept here is what I like to call lean and swing, because we are trying to row as tall as we can. And so when we come to the start of the rowing stroke, which in the rowing world, this is called the catch, because in a boat, this is where your oar would catch the water before you take the stroke. At the catch here, the only thing I want you to really think about right now is making sure that your shoulders are in front of your hips. So notice this position that I'm in right here. My shoulders are in front of my hips, which are back here. My hands are straight, and I'm essentially trying to feed the handle straight into the machine as much as I can. Now from this position, this is allowing us to push our legs down and swing back to the layback. So before you take a stroke, I want you to watch real quick. If I was just to push my legs, what happens is my arms and shoulders stay where they are, and my legs just press down. Notice how that is. So the legs always press first, your body stays the same, but once your legs go flat, you're gonna open up. And when you open up from this forward shoulders position to shoulders back, that's actually the point where max power is produced. We say that 60% of the power is from the legs, 20% core, 20% arms. But realistically, yes, the legs are strong and they create that initial drive, but it's that hip swing where the power really goes up. And a lot of us can't row the watts that we want to row because our body is so straight up and down as we row. If we're straight up and down, we're not getting any hip swing. You can see my upper body's just kind of staying in one place. But when we allow ourselves to lean at the front, push and swing back, just think about like a deadlift. You guys have done the deadlift on the weight floor, right? Where we grab the dumbbells and we do this move, right? You can pick up some pretty freaking heavy weights when you do that. And that's because our hips, all this stuff, is one of our strongest working muscle groups in our body. And it's a really powerful hinge or a swing, and that's what we want to emphasize when we row. So how we're going to start this is I actually want you guys to start here at the finish or the end of the stroke. So go ahead and sit back here at the finish. When we do so, handles right below your chest. Not to belly button, not to your waist, right below the chest, right below the sternum. Now what do your wrists do? Are we down here? Are we up here? What's ideal? Well, wrists flat. So that means when we pull in like this, that is not wrist flat. We pull in like this, that's not wrist flat either. So when the handle goes right below the sternum, the elbows are out a little bit, and that's wrist flat. Now, some of us are leaning back. Some of us are still sitting kind of straight up. What I need you to do here is I need you to lean back until you feel your abs really tighten up. Like you're holding like a sit-up almost. Do you feel those abs tighten? Every time. Every time. We need to finish feeling those abs tighten with this lean back, because now our shoulders, I know we can't hold it for very long, huh? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. But that's the shoulders back position. That's the lean. This, that's the swing. So now as we come back up, we got to make sure we're keeping the order just in the opposite direction. Now this is really hard because you got to use your brain. You got to think about it. The arms are the last thing to come in. They are always the first thing out. So I want you to just practice it here. Arms in, arms out. Keep your shoulders back. Just arms in, arms out. Notice the arms finish, the arms go out. And now from here, arms in, arms out. Now lean. Just lean, just lean, just lean. Now bend your legs. Come up, reach, reach, reach. Push, swing, pull. Arms out first. Lean. Compress. Reach, reach, reach. Push, swing, pull. You guys feel that swing? Let's do it again. Arms out. Lean. Lean, compress, push, swing, pull. Keep going. I'm going to come around and check some form real quick. Good. Nice. A little more lean back. Lean back. Yes. Good, because what are you, 5'1"? 5 foot? We got to row tall. Nice, guys. So remember, shoulders forward, swing the shoulders back. Yes. Don't you already feel like you're rowing 10 inches taller? It looks really freaking good. Nice. So remember, arms in, arms out first. There it is. Yes. Reins on, good. Guys, go ahead and set your handles down. Handles down. Very nice. Are we breathing already? Is your brain on fire already? Good. So, one moment, please. So, for now, that's the only kind of stroke form concept we're going to keep in mind as we roll through this list. The lean forward, the swing back. The shoulders forward, the swing back. Because you know what? When you get tired, we get tired, right? It's 37 minutes in. You got your 12 splat points long ago. It's time for another 350-meter row, and you're tired. But when we're tired, no matter how tired you are, you can always lean back. You're tired? Lean, right? You can always throw it back. But when a lot of us get tired, we just resort to sitting so vertical like this. And you're just losing so much free power when you're sitting vertical, where you get free watts, free energy from just leaning into it and swinging out of it. And you do that when the whole group's tired and you're the only one leaning and swinging, you're going to be kicking the pants off of 6'2" Joe next to you who's just sitting up tall and doing this, because you're going to be leaning and swinging, keeping your stroke long. You get free energy from doing that. Lean and swing is the moral of the story. Cool? Yeah. Excellent. Let's move along. Let's learn our monitor. So, press the on button, top left. Okay. Now, I might have, let me see where we left the monitors at last time. Perfect. Okay. So, right now, the screens are set to watts. That's the big number in the top right-hand corner. You guys see that, right? It's your power. From a physics standpoint, watts. The harder you row, the higher watts go. The softer you row, the lower the watts go. And the higher the watts are, the faster you're going to finish whatever distance you're doing, or the quicker or the farther you're going to go in the least amount of time. Now, what that number changes every stroke, though. And what we have to learn to do is we have to learn to sustain our watts for whatever the distance is. We'll get more into that in a moment. But looking below that, you guys see your meters, obviously, in the bottom right-hand corner. That ticks up whatever row distance you're going for. Just check in with your meters, make sure that you're on track to get that, of course. Your timer's in the bottom left. That's great for the workouts where sometimes you'll go push to all out with the treadmills while you're on the rowers. It's good to understand that that timer's there for you to kind of keep track. Okay, we're 45 seconds into our push. Okay, I'm going to be able to maintain this, or be able to check in with that timer there. The number top left, your stroke rate. This is a very interesting number. That is telling you how fast you're going up and down. And that's the only thing it's telling you. It's not telling you how powerful you are or how quickly you're going to finish your effort. And why is that? Well, I'll show you. You guys ready to see a high stroke rate? Right now, I'm taking about 90 strokes a minute. And my watts right now are about 60 strokes a minute. And I'm about 150 watts. So my watts were only 150, but my stroke rate was crazy high. But what if I do this? Slow, rate, max power per stroke. Now I'm at 400 watts at 17 strokes a minute. So that stroke rate was lower, but now I'm going way faster because the power's higher. That top left number means nothing. You can't obsess over that number. The higher it goes, doesn't mean anything. You can row hard at any stroke rate. So there's generally a range we keep that in. Typically for most rows, like most sort of like middle distance rows, like 300 to 500 meters plus, typically between 22, 24 to 30 or so for that stroke rate, generally speaking. When it comes to maximizing your top end performance, it's a little different. Smaller bodies can get away with a higher stroke rate because they have to, because they can't row as hard as someone taller. And that's just the physics. You take someone like me who's 6'8", you take another guy who's 6 feet tall, same fitness, just scaled down, just the same fitness but scaled down. Because I weigh 40 more pounds than him, and because my stroke is this much longer every time, I will always out-pull him in watts, even if he's just as fit as me, because that's just the physics. If you take rowing onto the water, like in a boat, if you're smaller and petite, but you're efficient for your size, you could beat someone who's way taller and heavier, because on the water, you're weighing down a boat. If I'm 220 pounds weighing in a boat, if the guy next to me is 180, his pure watts might not be as high, but proportionally to his size, it's more efficient, he'll beat me down the course. But these aren't on the water. These are here in the studio. And so the moral of the story here is you cannot compare your watts to someone else, of someone of a different size, because you won't beat someone who's taller than you of the same fitness level. It's just the physics. But you can still be the best rower you can be. Just because 5'1", one of the women 5'1" at my studio can row 350 watts. She's a freaking beast at 350. I can row 350 no problem. That doesn't mean anything, right? We're just different body types. It's just all different. Doesn't mean she's working any less or I'm not working harder than her. You know what I mean? It's all proportional. So let's change our units a little bit, because in the Orange Theory workout, our units do change. So here's what we're going to do. If your monitor turned off, go ahead and turn it back on. Press the on button, top left. In the top right is the units button. We are changing this now, but during the workout, you do not change this. Your coach will have your units set for you. Go ahead for now, though, press the top right units button. You should see the top right of your screen flashing. You hope you brought your glasses if you can't read. You're going to knock that up arrow to where it says /500 meters. This is called a split per 500 meter. If you weren't a swimmer or a track athlete or a rower, split sometimes just doesn't make sense in your head. I like to think of it as a pace timer. You ever worn your fitness watch outside and it's telling you your mile pace as you row? Or even on the treadmills, look. It's telling you your pace per mile, 15-minute pace. What happens when you run faster? Your pace goes lower, because now you're covering the distance in a faster amount of time, relatively. So what you're seeing on your rowing screen is you're seeing a pace per 500 meters. It's telling you how fast, at your current power, you would finish 500 meters. So if you row faster, or row harder, not faster, because we learned that the rate doesn't matter. If we're rowing more powerfully, the pace will go lower. Unlike watts, which go higher. A lot of members are like, I'm going so hard, why are my watts so low? Nancy, it's not watts today, it's split per 500 meter. So we need to learn to understand that number. If we row slower, the pace timer goes up. So depending on the workout, your coach will say, hey guys, the rowers today are set to split time as we work through these endurance rows. You need to take that upon yourself to know, okay, so I'm not looking at watts, I'm looking at a pace timer. And the reason why this is so an effective unit to use, especially for long rows, is because it doesn't change as frequently as watts do. With watts, you can row 20 watts, you can row like 900 watts on this thing. There's a huge range of watts to row. But with your split time, typically it's going to be between a 4-minute split, maybe a low 1-minute 15 split or something. It's not as much of a variation. And so it helps you stay a little bit more consistent when you're trying to finish a long duration effort. It doesn't change as much. If it said watts, for instance, and you were going for an 800-meter row, you might row and it might each stroke say 127, 123, 131. Like it's got those little changes, whereas if it was a split time, it would just show you 205, 205, maybe 204, maybe 206. So it helps you stay a little more focused, a little bit more consistent. And that brings us to kind of the theme of like what rowing is all about, which is learning to pace yourself and hold a consistent power for whatever distance you're doing. But we'll get into that more. Last unit I want to show you guys real quick. Actually, we're going to go ahead and take some practice strokes with this. So what I want you to do, with your split timer, we're not going fast. In fact, we're just going controlled. Remember our theme here. We pull our feet. We scoot forward, scoot forward, scoot forward. We're just going to do some lean and swing, slow strokes. The top left number, your stroke rate, nothing higher than 28. If it's higher than 28, all you need to do is slow yourself down on the way up. Keep it slow. Jump back. Keep it slow. Keep it controlled. And I want you guys to just take some strokes here. I'm going to come around and check some form. I want you to watch the split time as you row. Go ahead. Nice. Are we getting that lean in the front? That swing in the back? Are the arms the last thing in and the first thing out? Yes. Good. Nice. Now right here, look at that top right number, the split. Now I want you to row hard for 10 strokes. Just whatever that is for you. Row hard. push harder. 10 strokes. After you get 10, set your handle down. Nice, okay, once you finish your 10, handles down. Did you see the split time drop down as you went harder? Good, so you notice now that's not watts. If it was watts, it would have gone higher. It's split time, it went lower, so something to think about. Now we're gonna change our units again to another unit. So tap the units button, top right. Let's go ahead and bump it up to miles per hour. You only have to go up one arrow key or so, and then press that OK button. Perfect, awesome. Okay, miles per hour. What other piece of equipment in the room is set to miles per hour? Treadmills, right? So if I told you what's your base pace, you probably all know. Is anyone here like a regular bike or strider person? You guys all treadmills? Okay, cool, awesome. So you know what your base pace is, right? So when it comes to rowing, sometimes during workouts we have the rowers set to miles per hour. If I was to say, okay, rowers, find your base, what does that look like? Well, typically it's between 1, 2, or 3 miles per hour over your treadmill base. So here's an example. If your base on the treadmill, let's just say is 5 miles per hour. If you're a beginner rower, typically your base on the rower is probably be around 6 miles per hour. If you're more advanced and you really got the form down, you've done plenty of classes now, you're getting familiar with how your body works with rowing, it might be closer to 7 miles per hour. If you're an elite rower, you did rowing in college or whatever it might be, or you might do practice, you have a rowing machine at home, you row all the time, maybe your base is 8 miles per hour when you row. Between 1 and 3 though is typically for what we look for. So what we're going to do now is we are going to find our base when we row. So we're just going to practice our lean and swing form. So go ahead and pick up your handles. Well, first off, scoot your butt forward if you haven't already. Get that butt back behind you. Tilt, tilt, tilt. And again, what I'm looking for here is when we're sitting, we're trying to sit as far like this as we can. Again, not like this, but like this. As much as our hamstrings allow us. Looks so freaking good. You guys are ready. Sorry, I get loud when I get like really excited for good rowing. Yeah. Well, yeah, yes. Has anyone fallen off the rower yet? None of you have yet? Oh, you have to at least once. Oh, well, once you fall once, it'll never happen again. Because it's the most painful thing ever. And it happens a lot of the times we practice our sprint rows, which we're going to get to at the end of the talk today. But a little bit, yeah. Just make sure that, I always think about trying to sit heavy in your seat. Don't try to sit light. A very common mistake, or a very commonly missed cue in coaching is, like, you know, with exercises, everyone always says to sit up tall, you know, shoulder blades back, sit up tall, row tall. You actually don't want to really row that tall. When you row tall, you can't really get as far forward as you want to for a max stroke. Rounding your shoulders a little bit, letting your shoulder blades round out, that's actually what's optimal. So that should help you stay grounded in your seat. Again, we're not sitting up tall and straight and light in our seat. That's what's going to make you fall out. So sit heavy in your seat. Let your shoulder blades round a little bit here at the front end. That's going to help keep you on board. That was a really good point. What are we doing? Oh yeah, finding our base. So handles up, screens on, of course. Go ahead and take some rowing strokes here and aim for 1 to 3 miles per hour over your base in the top right-hand corner of your screen. I'm going to give you a minute to get there, so practice. A lot of us, we need to practice a little bit more patience here on the way up. Take your time coming up. Jump back. Take your time coming up. On a base on the treadmill, you hear your coaches say it, base should be able to be held for 20 to 30 minutes. Are you going to hold what you're doing right now for 30 minutes straight? Okay, then dial it back. Dial it back. Dial it back. No one's watching. No one cares. No egos. No egos. Sustainable. You got your whole life to get good at this. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it. Remember, arms first. Lean. Arms first. Lean. Now legs. Good. Arms are the last thing in, first thing out. There it is. Good. Okay. Handles down. Handles down. Okay. Breathing. Yes. Good. Hopefully, that breathing translates to green on the OT Beat screen. Hopefully, every single one of you are wearing your monitor to class. And if you're not, you need to, if you really, really want to get the most out of your rowing. Because in the end, our base on a rower, our base on anything is about the feeling, right? You look across all the treadmills, every single person is at a different pace because our base is all relative to our own fitness. It's the same thing when we row, but how do we quantify it? Well, it's the green zone on the OT Beat screen. And so if you're rowing during the warm-up and you're in gray, guess what? You're not at your base. You can add a little more step to each rowing stroke. Get yourself in the green. It takes a little bit of time, but do you know why it's so easy to hold base and to make the treadmill tough? You know why it's so easy, right? Because all you have to do is not fly off. You tap your number and just don't fly off the treadmill. But when you're rowing, unfortunately, you have to make your own power. You have to make your own consistent power. So it takes like a different level of focus than the treadmill does. So, but realizing that we are all different, just like our bases up here are all different, our rowing bases are all different too. So what I'm gonna have you guys do real quick is change your rower back to, actually no, I'm sorry, we're gonna keep it miles per hour for now. We're gonna do one more little practice here. So we know that a push, at least on the treadmill side of things, for the joggers and runners, that's 1 to 2 miles per hour over base. If anyone here is a regular power walker, it's kind of hard to translate this from what you're doing from a base to an incline walk, but obviously a push is supposed to feel uncomfortable. It's supposed to feel challenging. And again, joggers, runners, it's 1 to 2 miles per hour over base. So on the rower, it's the same thing. You have your base miles per hour, if it's set to miles per hour, and we'll change it back, but when it's set to miles per hour, if we're going into a push, we need to add 1 to 2 miles per hour to that. There's a couple ways we can do that. And this is a really, really key concept for today. So I want you guys to watch me carefully here. There's 2 ways to change how we add power. When we row, I'm going to get myself to a base here. So when I'm here at base, listen to the water. It's just kind of got that nice, steady, consistent pull to it. So if I want to go into a push, the first option and the preferred option is instead of changing how fast I go up and down, it's the push against the water more. So listen to the water. Now, I'm going to go into a push. You hear the water change? My up and down is still the same. I'm not going up and down any faster. I'm just pushing a little bit harder. And now I'm breathing. And my miles per hour went up as well. But I didn't change my speed. I just changed how hard I'm pushing, because if you've ever played in a pool or in a bathtub, you move your arm through water, you move it through lightly, it doesn't resist you. But you grip that water and try to move your arm through, the water resists you. It's the same thing here. It's resisting you the harder you push against it. So you don't have to go fast, you just got to give it a little more grip. So that's one way to change power. However, there's another way to do it too, and that is changing your stroke rate. So listen again to the water at base. So I've got my base strokes per minute. And right now I'm sitting around close to 20 in the top left. If I want to go into a push, maybe I just add a few more strokes to that. Listen here. Now I'm just coming up a little faster. Same power, now just more strokes. That is now also taking up my miles per hour, because I'm taking more strokes in a minute. That's a lot harder to do and keep good form, because we always want to have good form when we row. But if we're always just trying to bring more stroke rate, eventually our form breaks down. So we want to practice adding pressure instead of adding stroke rate. So handles up, or first, grab your foot straps, sit forward. This is the new habit every single time you're sitting. Grab that handle, let's go ahead and row to your base. Try to find those base miles per hour again. I'm going to give you a few seconds. Remember, no egos. You do what you need to do. I want you to really find a pace you could hold for 20 to 30 minutes here. Taking your time coming up. Just add in some pressure. That top left number should not be higher than 26, 28. Should be 20 to 26, somewhere in that range. Okay, now we're going to go into a push. I want you to look at that miles per hour. Hopefully right now it's not changing anymore. We're going to go into a push. I want you to add 1 to 2 miles per hour, but not by going faster, by pushing harder. So now push your legs more, take your time. Push your legs more, take your time coming up, so don't rush. Just grip the water more. Grip the water. Keep our lean. Keep our swing. Shoulders forward. Yes, every time. Nice. Is it feeling pushy? Handles down. Handles down. Okay, nice. So we learned about the pressure differences when we row. That's a key concept. And how hard do you push yourself? It just takes practice. It's just like anything. The more workouts you take, the more focus you bring to each row distance that you're doing, the more you're going to be able to learn how to push yourself to the point where you can sustain it without like dying, but keeping the good form. So that was really nice, guys. We're going to change our monitors back here. So tap units again, and you're going to scroll back down to watts. So you get the second from the last one, and press that OK button. All right, so watts we see a lot more commonly than miles per hour. But we did miles per hour because it's easy to talk about it as far as the treadmill goes. By the way, an all out on the rower, same kind of idea, 2+ miles per hour over base. So when it comes to an all out, though, we know those are finite. You get to rest after. Oh, thank God. They're never longer than a minute. And so if we're going all out on a rower, it's a combo of max pressure, but also a little bit more stroke rate too, right? Like it's a max effort. Now, if it's a 1 minute all out, obviously you got to pace yourself a little more. But 30-second, I mean, come on, you can do anything for 30 seconds. So go hard and after it, knowing that you're going to get that rest. But learning on a push, not an all out, to be able to go hard but stay in control, being able to drop back to base if you had to, takes practice. But you guys looked real good. So we're back to watts now. You're going to see watts a lot more than miles per hour. A push, when it comes to watts, a push is going to be 25 to 50 watts over your base. So somewhere in that range. What is your base watts? It is unrightful of a coach to say, okay, guys, everyone should be at least at 100 watts for base. That's like saying, okay, everyone on the treadmills, you should be at least 5 miles per hour for base pace. You can't assign everyone the same watts because we're all different. We're all different fitness levels. We're all different body sizes. It's up to you to take charge and to find your base when you row. Find that green zone. Practice that. And so if you're someone who shows up and always just grabs a treadmill card to start, this next week, grab a rower card. Grab a rower card and spend those 3 minutes, because it's only 3 minutes before you go to the weight floor, right? Hustle into your rower, get your feet in, pick up the handle, find your base row. Take it upon yourself. This thing right here, a lot of people think this thing is out to get you. Newsflash, people, it's an inanimate object. It's a training tool. And if you want to dominate on this thing, you got to show it who's in charge and you got to care about what you're doing. All right, so that's your job, is to try to find, when you're coming in for the workout, start on the rower, try to find some base watts. And then from there, if we're doing a push, if you're going from push to all out, which we don't do too often, but 25 to 50 watts over base. Sometimes you can stretch that a little bit higher if you're a more high-performance athlete. For all outs, 50+ watts over base pace. That's kind of the idea. So, and your coach will be reiterating that too. That's a very common thing that we're supposed to say. So, that's kind of a bit about learning how to base, push, and all out yourself. Let's talk a little bit about the different distances that we have and how we gauge these different distances and how we can change our form to maximize ourselves on these different distances, because there are small technique changes that you can do to get a little bit more out of these different styles of rows. Most of our days at Orange Theory are endurance, strength, power, or ESP, right? Sometimes we have tornadoes. Orange Everest. Who did Orange Everest? The mountain climb one? Oh, yeah. Still a little scarred from that? No, I'm just kidding. A little bit. Nice. Who's here? You guys are all participating in Hell Week, yeah? From Thursday to Thursday? Oh, sweet. One of those days is going to be a big rowing day. The point is, though, we have a whole variety of different rows that we do. Endurance, strength, and power rows. Thinking of endurance rows as rows that are 500 meters or more. Now, as far as the form goes, the only thing I've really told you guys about form so far today is our lean and our swing, right? Our shoulders forward and our shoulders back. Now we're going to get a little bit more technical. When it comes to maximizing an endurance row, we want to row as long and efficiently as we can. And a big debate is, what should your heels do? Austin, should my heels lift up? Should they stay planted? Don't focus on your heels. Focus instead on your leg compression and trying to get your shins vertical. I want you to watch me real quick as I do this. Now, when I'm rowing to shins vertical, just watch what my feet do as I come up to the front. Shins vertical. You see my heels lift a little bit, right? My heels lift up, but my shins are getting to the vertical position. The reason why my heels lift is because I'm not the most flexible person in my calves and ankles. There are some dancers that stretch all the time that can get their shins vertical with their heels still pressed down. But when we get our shins vertical, what that's doing is that's positioning our thigh muscles, it's stretching them just enough to get them into an optimal, efficient, powerful pressing motion that can be sustained. So we're essentially loading the muscle to the point where if we went any farther than that, we're not able to produce the power that we could than if we would have just stopped at shins vertical. So it's just that sweet spot angle of your two legs that are making that happen. And when it comes to rowing 500 meters or more, These rows are going to take 2, 3, 4 minutes plus. It's a 1,000-meter row, 2,000-meter benchmark. That takes like between 6 and 10 minutes. Like, that's a long time. We want to get ourselves into a mindset of, okay, well, I have to sustain myself for 6 to 10 minutes. What's the most efficient way to sustain myself? So the two things. We now know we have our lean and our swing, and now we have shins vertical. Shins vertical, push, swing, pull. Arms out, shins vertical. Now, one more thing before we start though, it's time to start thinking of our rowing stroke as a light switch. On and off. There's an on portion and an off portion, and this really helps us really emphasize the mantra that Orange Theory has called power, patience, patience. Watch me here. With the on switch, flick on means you're on, means you can row as hard as you want. Row on, off, controlled, off, on, off immediately, slow and controlled. I'm not rushing to take the next stroke because as I control myself, if you look at your meters as you do it, you're actually gaining meters as you take your time to come back up for the next stroke. So why would I rush that? It's free meters. That's free distance. And the effort from rowing comes on the backwards, going back, not coming forward. So it takes so much frickin' patience and brain power to really control yourself of turn off, arms first, handle over the knees before you bend, on, off, handle over the knees before I bend, on, off. We're going to practice.
So what is actually when you're, so the whole point of the patience, it's to let your abs, I mean, what?
It's to keep you from like over like burning yourself out. Because how are you supposed to sustain 8 minutes of this? You're not. You're going to start flopping and you're going to get crazy. But this, you do this for 3 hours straight. You could do it. You could all do that for 3 hours if you really slow yourself down enough. So let's practice. Handles up. Scooch yourself forward. Scoochy, scooch. So strap those feet and grab the straps and lean into it. Handles up. I want you to try to just follow me to start, okay? Let's go ahead and drive back and control. Nice. Push, swing, pull. Arms, lean, go. On, off, immediately, slow. Good. Keep going, keep going. I'm going to come around, check form. Are your hands going over your knees before you bend your knees? Yes. And if they're not, do it. Use your brain. You can do anything. Yes. Okay, so what you're doing right now, you guys could do that for 300,000 meters. Don't you feel in control? Don't you feel strong on that row? Don't you feel confident? I hope so, because it looks really good. Remember, arms out first, over the knees before we bend. There we go. It's nice. Arms in, arms out. Yes. Shoulders forward at the front, shoulders in. Good. How much can we bring that handle into the machine? Nice, guys. Gals, I should say. Okay, handles down, handles down. Nice. Looks really good. Now, learning to now all you have to do with that form is learn how to gauge it based off of how long the row is. If it's 500 meters, well, if it says, 4 weight floor exercises, go row 500, if you look, it says 500, and it gives you a little time limit. It says aim for between 1:20 and 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Well, that should give you a good gauge. Okay, well, I have to do that long form for probably around 2 minutes and 10 seconds or so for most of us. So going with that game plan. Does that mean you'd go up to the treadmill and you'd just go right away 12 miles per hour for 2 minutes and 10 seconds, and then every few seconds start slowing down, and then you slow down, and then you cross the finish line at a 1? That's why we don't blast off when we start rowing. That's the same idea, right? You would hold one steady, consistent effort up here. It's your job to help find that steady, consistent effort when you're there on the rowing machine. And you won't know what that is until you practice and you take note of it. And what you can do if you're real crazy, like a few of our members at Natomas do, they bring a little notebook into class. They record their weight floor stuff, like the weights and stuff, but it's actually a really good way to help you kind of familiarize yourself with your rows. Like if we're doing 250 meter rows, jot down 250, and then kind of ballpark your watts. I was like, it was around 160 watts or so. That way next time you do it, you're like, okay, well, I was around 160 last time. Let's see if I can do it again. Now this is an endurance row, right? If we're doing multiple rounds of 500 meters, for instance, and you start off, and you're rowing it 200 watts to start, and you cross the finish row at 120 watts. Well, clearly you died off. Nothing, I mean, that's okay. We have to practice. This was a practice round or whatever. But if you're going back for round 2, are you going to start at 200 watts again? I sure as hope not. Hope you want to be like, okay, I started 200, I finished 120. Can I ballpark and aim for 165 the whole way through? Now you've learned how to pace yourself, or you've practiced trying to learn patience. Too often we just sit on the rower and eyes around the room and when is this over? Take charge of that thing. Learn from your experiences. What do you do in life when you mess up on something? Do you do the same mistake over and over and over until it just wears you down? Or do you try to learn from what you did and try to do better the next time? It's responsibility. It's accountability. And it's what needs to happen to get the most out of your rows. So that's the key thing with the endurance rows. Those take practice. Strength rows, it's the same deal. Same form for the most part. It's just shorter. So 300 to 500 meters in that regard. Those are, going to take between like a minute, minute 40, maybe 2 minutes or so. So you're not on there as long, but you're still keeping the long strokes. So maybe you're just adding this time a little bit more power, maybe coming up a little bit faster, but keeping that same form. And again, learning from each row. Did you start high and finish low with your watts? Let's see if you can find the middle ground next time. That's the idea. For power rows, things change up a little bit. And this is where things get a little crazy, because on an endurance row, we're looking for how steady can you maintain your row. On a power row, we're looking for how high can you get those watts. And maximizing your watts on a short row takes a little bit of a technique change. So what you can do, the main thing to change when it comes to a power row, is I'm going to just demonstrate here. These rows are so short. 100 meters is over in no longer than like 20-something seconds for some of us. Some of us, it's in the teens or whatever. It's so short, instead of relying on these long, efficient strokes, because our muscles are kind of like rubber bands, they stretch. And if we overstretch them, we can't get max power out of them. So we want to focus instead on rowing as long as possible to trying to see how many strokes, quick and powerfully, we can take. And so now the cue is heels planted. Heels stay down. So check this out. If I'm rowing full strokes with my heels up, I literally can't jump back fast enough and come back up. Compared to if I kept my heels planted, check this out. Heels planted, I can immediately jump back. I can immediately go right back. And what that allows you to do for 100 meters, allows you to get as many strokes as possible with that short form. Notice I'm not rowing as far up, but I'm able to take more strokes, and because the road's going to be over so fast, that's the way to do it. That was unsustainable for 500 meters. But for 150, that's what we want to look for. So, correct, because it's a short row. Correct, because it's power. Power is explosive. Power is max. Just like on a treadmill. Think about it. Like when you have your 30-second personal best up there, you have to hype yourself up for it, huh? You're like, I'm freaking dead, I'm tired, but this is it, this is my day, and I'm gonna go, and you tap, and you, but like you hyped yourself for it. It's the same thing with these short rows. You have to kind of hype yourself to it. Obviously still keep your form, but it's very much about attitude and your demeanor when you approach it. That's gonna really help you get the most out of it. So we're still keeping our lean and our swing. The legs just aren't compressing as much. And I'm forcing myself to stop early. When we first start practicing this, you're going to want to come up all the way. But you want to practice heels down, lean, swing, heels down. So we're going to practice. Handles up. What I want you to do, start here at the finish of the rowing stroke. We're at the finish. Now, come out and up until your heels start to lift. Go to the point right before they start to lift. For me, that's here. Are your shoulders forward? Are your arms straight? Good. Shoulders. Right now you're sitting up tall. We have to lean forward. Lean into this. They're nice. Way better. Watch our knees too, guys. If our knees are coming in, we want to keep our knees out in line with our feet. So now from here, we're not going fast. We're going slow. Just take your stroke. Come back. Nice. Now out slow. Arms out. Over the knees before you bend. Come up right before your heels lift. Go back. Take it slow. We're not going fast. I just want you to feel how short this stroke is. Good. Are you leaning back? Are you leaning forward? Are you leaning back? Are you leaning forward? Now, every time you take a stroke now, I want you to add a little more power and a little more speed. I want you to build into it. Kind of like an engine revving into, or like a train engine, a train, horse, whatever. Go. Here we go. Nice. Let's keep working on it. Let's get a little faster. Now jump. Now up. Now jump. Now up. Heels planted. Go. Nice. Try to get those watts high now. Heels planted. Good. Nice. Go back. Okay, handles down. Probably tired. Feel the difference? Cool. You got to hype yourself up for those power rows. And form can get a little crazy if you watch some of like the top people around Orange Nation like perform the 100s and 150s. They get wild. That's not like, it's just more of like an ego show off thing. What's really like shows your like how good you are on your rower is if you can knock out 500 meters or more efficiently, because you want that long, efficient form. That's going to keep you the most safe. So you want to be cautious with those power rows. You don't fly off your seat. Work on the shortened compression. But like anything in life, it's going to take practice. And every single person here has 40, 50, 60, 70 plus years to go in the fitness journey. And we're all in this for the long haul. We can't obsess over like everything all at once. We got to take it one thing at a time. You guys have thousands upon thousands of workouts to practice all these little nuances, all these little tips. But it's your job to do that. So we can't play a victim to scenarios. We can't just let things happen. You got to be in control. You got to take charge of your rower. Learn from your mistakes. Learn from your rows. And you go in with that attitude of being really focused, even when you're tired, which is so hard to do. But if you can do that for a couple weeks, you're going to straight dominate on this thing. And you're going to show everyone, you're going to kick the pants off of people that look like they should be rowing harder than you. It's all about just learning from each row that you do. So that's what it comes down to, learning to pace yourself. Come into a lot of class, take a lot of classes. I mean, just stay with your schedule, but just try to make the most you can out of each time. Don't just let the row happen. Don't let anything happen. Don't just move through the exercises on the weight floor. 8 of that, 10 of that, 12 of that. Take charge of each thing you're doing. Get the most out of it. Take breaks as you need to. And learn from what you did. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you. Yeah, thanks, guys. We have a Q&A now. So any specific questions?
On the power, are you still abiding by the arms to your knees before?
Yes, always, always. Because, yeah, that's just how it all. That's the one thing we always have to keep in mind is every row, no matter what, on the way out, your arms are always the first thing out. And that handle has to go over your knees before you bend them. If you are bending before, you're messing up. And you all can do it, right? You gotta force your brain to start practicing it. Slow it down as much as you need to. Arms, handle over. Okay, now I can bend. And do this as slow and as a million, bajillion times as you need to. And over time, it's gonna become more natural and it will become fluid. And you won't have to think about it as much. But if you don't practice it now, it won't. So your job's to practice.
So the longer rows, the longer distance is where we should do the back and then patience.
Yep, exactly, yeah. And because if it's 2,000 meters, that's like there's no reason why we should start off max speed.
And then the strength stays the same, but you just pull on the water harder.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the same form. You're just rowing a little bit harder because it's only 300 meters, so you can add a little more pressure to it. Yeah, I mean you can row the full form. It's just not going to be as efficient. It's not going to be as powerful. Yeah, a lot of people are like, how do I get my watts higher, Austin? How do I get my watts higher? That's how you do it. And just so you guys know too, I have my YouTube channel and my Instagram page as well. I post daily workout videos for Orange Theory. So every day, workout tip for whatever workout we have coming up. That's my tag down there, Training Tall. So, and I have over 50 plus technique videos on YouTube that talk about everything we talked about today in even more detail. So you're welcome to check those out. I also have rowing programs for sale if you're curious about getting a rowing machine for your home and you want to do some structured rowing programs, but that's me, and that's what I do. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. Appreciate it.
Training Tall is on
everything. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, everything. Yep, or even if you put training space tall. It'll still come up. You'll see my face. I'm like, just smiling, whatever.
So again, the way we sit, it should be kind of like in the middle, or?
No, so again, we want to protect our back. So you're trying to sit as much like this as you can. Because when we start to sit like this, that's when our back rounds, and that's when we get our back injuries. So it's how far can you possibly sit like this while being able to still straighten your legs. And that's all hamstring flexibility.
You're trying to stick your butt out, right?
Correct, yeah. That's why I was using a variety of phrases. Like stick your butt back, sit on your junk, sit on the backs of your thighs. Like one of those phrases just has to click in where you know you have to sit like this. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
I think one of the most, the thing that you said that was helpful and was when, because, we heard the, the push,
Yeah.
and then core, and then arm.
Yep.
But when you said, think of it as a hip swing.
Yeah.
That was more helpful than
Good.
the link, because I'm like,
Yeah.
to feel what that feels like, it's like, oh, that's what that is.
Exactly, yeah, understanding. And that's my whole goal. That's like every day I'm just trying to figure out a way, like how can I articulate these very like technical terms into like just things we can all like really easily just think about. Lean, swing. It's a lot easier to think about than core and,
Right.
Yeah.
One more question. So if we start on the rower and we have the warm-up time,
Yeah.
whatever it's called, which of those three, like the endurance, strength, or power, which should we really be?
Endurance.
Endurance.
Endurance, long strokes. Yep. Long, steady strokes with a super focus on form. Yep. And watch your heart rate too. And again, if you don't have a monitor, you're missing out on not only that, but all of your workout. But
So watch it, because if it's not getting to green,
yeah, it just means you've got like you just haven't you're
little bit more.
what I always say is congratulations, you're fitter than you thought you were. Now add more watts. Because you can. And over time as you get more fit too, your base watts will get higher, just like your treadmill speeds get higher. It's all the same thing. This just takes a little bit more brain power.
and you said coaches will tell us if they've switched, like if we're looking at something different than what we
They should be. And one thing I've learned from being online and reaching thousands of people across the world from Orange Theory is I hear a lot of crazy stories about a lot of coaches doing a lot of stuff that is not good. Your coaching, yeah, the coaches need to take accountability for themselves because that is what we are required to tell. We are required to say you are set to split per 500 meter today, or your rowers are set to miles per hour today. It's going to be on your coaches, and I don't have any control over that, but that's what they should be doing.
What can you tell us what these other ones are?
They're just kind of, there's like meters per second. They're split per 2,000 meters, which is kind of cool. For a 2,000 meter row, it actually will tell you the pace per 2,000. So if you're doing a 2,000 meter row and you're rowing and it says 7:45 in the top right, that would tell you you're going to finish in 7:45. But split per 500 meters, my preferred pace for people, just because it again, doesn't change as much. It helps you be a little more consistent without the frustration of those mini tiny watt changes, for instance. So, yeah, and I wouldn't worry too much about the other units. And again, don't change the monitor unless you're told to, because then you'll forget to change it back, and the next person doesn't know what they're looking at. So, yeah. You guys mind if we take a little photo?
No.
Before? Cool, awesome, great. Cool. Coach, you mind snapping a photo for us?
Thank you, that was great.
Oh, you're so welcome, guys. Thank you. I'm really sweaty, so don't touch me. Gather round. Yeah, good. I know. Yes, I know. Yes, please do. All right. All right, guys, big smile. Wait, hold on. Let me fix my hat. Ooh, I can look good. Okay. Cool. Thank you guys so much. You're so welcome. Best of luck to you guys, and I know you're gonna try one thing every day. Little focus every day. Thanks, guys.